Hey there, I'm Lee Ullman here with some big news from the National Young Farmers Coalition. We're partnering with Heritage Radio Network on a special season of The Farm Report. It's all about what's happening with the Farm Bill and how it impacts farmers and eaters.
I am growing diversified vegetables on land that's been in our family for 150 years.
And so with the pandemic, gentrification, property values going up, we had to sell the land and we lost it.
Join us as we uncover the untold stories behind this massive piece of legislation that shapes how we grow our food, what we eat, and so much more.
The problems we have had, those are things that come from earlier Farm Bill and USDA policy, right? Like Earl Butz, get big or get out.
You know, it's my responsibility to know not only what I'm eating, but then like how that all came to be. And realize like, wow, like this piece of legislation, all this money, like it's technically something that I support as a taxpayer.
While Congress debates the next Farm Bill, this is not just an invitation to listen. It's a call to action. Be part of the conversation. Subscribe to the Farm Report on Heritage Radio Network, wherever you listen to podcasts.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network. Since 2009, HRN podcasts have been exploring the wide world of food, beverage, and agriculture. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org.
We talk about food, we talk about music, with musical dudes, finger on the pulse, snacky tunes.
Hello and welcome to Snacky Tunes. I am one half your host, Darren Bresnitz. Jing, founder and CEO of Fly by Jing, swings by the show to celebrate the launch of their new chili crisp vinaigrette. She shares the story of the search for her culinary roots, the launch of Fly by Jing, and how she keeps pushing and innovating with the company in new, delicious directions. Then we dig deep, and I'm talking way deep, 2011 deep, into the archives for a legendary performance from We Are Augustines. They had swung by the studio to celebrate CMJ and laid down one of our earliest performances. It's one for the books. We hope you enjoy it. So please sit back, relax, Snacky Tunes here on Heritage Radio Network.
Lift your tired heart now, darling. Lift it up into the air. And I will notice you in this crowded room and whisper in your ears. Lift your tired head down, darling. Lift it up into the air. And I will float to you in this crowded room. Let's get us out of here. Wanna run it out of love now, darling. I really don't care. Ain't got no paper in my pockets now, but I will, I swear. Honey, know you're tired of losing. It's a million to one, I know, Lord. Put your lily hand in mine. This is a ballad of a passion, man. Lift your heart. Oh. Lift your tired eyes now, darling. Hold back your pretty head. As long as my heart keeps pumping blood, ain't gonna disappear. Wanna run it out of love now, darling. I really don't care. Ain't got no paper in my pockets now, but I will, I swear. Honey, know you're tired of losing. To me, you're the one I know, Lord. Put your lily
Jing, welcome to Snacky Tunes. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. We really appreciate it.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. We've had a lot of conversations and people in the food world and restaurant tours since the pandemic, and a lot of the focus has been on restaurants and how they've been affected. But the other side of the conversation is how much people have been cooking at home and recreating restaurant meals at home. I'm sure that you've seen a lot of that with the work that you've done and the products and the business that you oversee. What has been your experience? What have you seen on the other side of at-home cooking, and how you've related to that in the last few years?
So definitely once lockdown happened, a lot of direct-to-consumer food and beverage brands like ourselves have actually, seen quite a lot of growth in that period when people were stuck at home and just more open and willing to experiment with new things. And so our product in particular, because we're known for our Sichuan chili crisp, which adds flavor to a lot of different things, and people would write us during COVID and tell us how it saved their quarantine cooking and how they were able to easily recreate like restaurant flavors at home, which I think, having like, cooking fatigue really set in for a lot of people. And so being able to like switch it up was really helpful for them. So yeah, we had a lot of very, very happy consumers that we found during that time who have continued to support us. So so I think it's been definitely challenging in other ways, though, with supply chain and being able to get products to our customers on time. And, I think at the height of COVID, when it first started, which also coincided with like the biggest period of growth for us, it was great that we were growing so much, but it was coupled with all the challenges that came with trying to fulfill those orders. And we definitely had a lot of people on wait lists who waited a very long time to get their product. And so we're very lucky that people stuck by us. And I think people were very understanding of those challenges. But now we're on the other side of it. And what's been great is that we've really focused over the past couple of years on, really strengthening our supply chains. So, now on the other side of it, we're feeling a lot more confident with our production capacity. We've got backups of, factories that we work with. Freight and everything has seemed to settle down. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, there's so much that was learned and so many business points that I want to get to in a little bit, but I want to go back to sort of the beginning, because you grew up in quite a legendary food city. Where'd you grow up? What was the scene like? How big a part of food was in your childhood?
I grew up in Chengdu, which is known as the food capital of China. It's the capital city of Sichuan province. It's actually a UNESCO World City of Food, it's only one of a handful of cities around the world that has that designation. And, China is a place that is just so vast. It's more of a continent than a country, and there's just so much diversity in regional cuisines within China. And Sichuan is one of the main ones, and it is incredible, known for its incredible flavor profiles. Chefs are able to take like limited ingredients and combine it in, dozens of different ways, hundreds of different ways, and to just create incredible diversity of flavor profiles. And so in Sichuan, I think everyone is born born a food lover. Like that's just a prerequisite to being a Sichuanese.
Sure.
And then, so that's just baseline. And everybody has their favorite restaurants, favorite hole-in-the-wall restaurants. And these hole-in-the-walls are known in Sichuan or in Chengdu as fly restaurants. and they are also the namesake for our brand. But these are really incredible, lively eateries that are usually hidden and hard to find. There's no marketing. It's down alleys, and but it's so delicious that it's said to draw people like flies. And so um, that's like kind of a hallmark feature of Chengdu's food scene, and what I really wanted to bring to life and kind of evoke the energy of when I started Fly by Jing.
Did you know how much you're into food, or did you just think of it as something that everyone was into, and you didn't realize it until you started seeing more of the world and living in other places, that not everyone has the same culinary relationship with where they grew up?
So I was born there, but I grew up moving around quite a lot outside of China. So I grew up like kind of removed from that culture. And we would, visit every few years to visit family. And I remember eating delicious, food, but, and then, going back to where we were living at the time, which was like across Europe, sometimes in Germany, England, Austria, France, Italy, and then eventually Canada. So I think because I was removed from that, I didn't really identify with that food. I just, on the rare visits home, I would enjoy it and it was part of my memories. But it wasn't until much later when I was in my 20s and moved to China for work that I started to really kind of reconnect with those flavors and with myself as a result.
What drew you to that reconnection? Because if you travel a lot all over the world and you're in this more, you're in Europe, and there's obviously an emphasis on sort of that type of cuisine. What was that spark when you came back home that made you realize that this was more than just eating, that this was something that was going to draw you into a new chapter in your life?
I think that was a gradual process. It was definitely not like an instant realization. When I first went to China as an adult, it was through an exchange semester with my university, and so I studied in Beijing. And I remember being very just enamored and astounded by how incredibly dynamic the city was. This was in 2008, 2009. And I just, fell in love with the energy. It was such a fast paced, like city. Things were so modern, so growing so quickly. You had the modernity, and then you also had the tradition and the history of this, like, thousands of years of history in the city. And so that contrast was really interesting to me, and also like what was possible within that contrast. And so I felt like anything was possible, anything goes. And so I started actually getting involved with a company that did food tours in the city. And I was really fascinated by what I was tasting, what I was learning, because, there was so much depth to all the different regional cuisines, and each of the provinces would have like a representative government office in Beijing. And that's where you would often find the most authentic versions of the cuisine from the regions, because the local government, the government officials would would miss flavors of back home. So they would bring out their chefs. And so, so through that process, I just learned so much about all these different cuisines, and my palate was really expanded by tasting all these flavors I'd never had before, and these ingredients I'd never had before. And so it started off as just like something that was just like piqued my curiosity. And the more I looked into it, the more I realized how much of myself I was kind of uncovering. And, I was really seeking identity, I think, after having grown up the way I did all over the world. It was, it felt like peeling back layers to myself. And so then the more I did that, the more I realized just how fascinating all of this was. And I started sharing it on a food blog, and I realized just how little, people outside of China really understood or appreciated the complexity of Chinese food. And I felt like others would want to know. And so it became a mission about like shining light on the culture and, kind of giving it a pedestal and the respect that I felt like it deserved.
For those who are not as familiar with Chinese culture and Chinese culinary culture, what do people fail to grasp? How integrated is food into Chinese personality and culture as a whole?
Yeah, so I think what most people don't realize is just how deep the culture goes. It's a 5,000-year culinary heritage. It's evolved tremendously in that 5,000 years, and it continues to evolve. So no one can really say they have a full handle or grasp on Chinese food or even know what Chinese food is, because it's not knowable. It is literally so vast. Someone who studies Sichuan cuisine all their lives could never even grasp the fullness of Sichuan cuisine, let alone all of China. And on top of that, it keeps changing still. And just constantly there's the evolution, which makes sense because, living, breathing cultures, they change and they evolve, and, otherwise it's, it ceases to exist. So I think that was just like instilling that humility in you, in that, like, there's no way that you'll ever understand this or can claim to be an expert, and I think that's kind of the key to approaching not just Chinese food, any culture's cuisine.
Yes. All right, we're going to take a quick musical break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about the start of Fly by Jing and how you built the business from the ground up. We have a song from the archives here on Snacky Tunes on Heritage Radio Network.
myself shaking. I could only be loved all my time.
and welcome back to Snacky Tunes. We were with Jing Gao of Fly by Jing, and before the break, we're talking about the evolution and the constant evolution of Chinese cuisine. And I think it's one thing to love something from your childhood, love a specific flavor from where you grew up or where you feel that you have culinary ties to. It's quite another thing to turn that into a product or something that you sell to people. How did you start thinking about bottling or putting together the essence of this flavor as a business?
Yeah, so I originally moved to China with a tech job, and I was there doing, my work during the day and kind of like in my spare time working on my food blogging and food media projects. And then eventually I decided I wanted to do something in food full time and ended up quitting my job and starting a restaurant in Shanghai. And that was kind of my first endeavor, like fully into the food world. And I realized through that process, like learned a ton. And I realized I actually didn't want to operate restaurants. I think, that's like a extremely difficult business, just like all businesses, but, restaurants are quite specific, and it's tedious and, all the things. And for me, what I loved about the process, and we had a very successful restaurant, but what I loved about it was the storytelling, the brand creation, the kind of reaching people with these flavors that I was developing, and I wanted to figure out how can I do that, even make it more accessible, but also do something that felt more personal to me. And I was trying to figure out what that was, because, our restaurant was a modern Chinese fast casual, and it was, kind of recreating a lot of flavors from regional flavors from across China. But I wanted to figure out like, what is my, unique contribution to Chinese food. And so I ended up moving to my hometown for a summer and going back to Chengdu and just studying with chefs and going into the countryside and on sourcing trips and just really digging into Sichuan food in particular, because that's, what kind of went back to where it started for me. And again, it was kind of like a journey in identity and finding what resonated with me as somebody who, was born there, but also has lived all over the world and wanted to create something that was, unique to who I was. And so that led me to Fly by Jing. And that started out as an underground supper club. And so that was kind of a pop-up dining concept that I was just, taking the techniques I learned, the really incredible ingredients that I was able to find from across Sichuan, and figure out like what, how do I put my own spin on it? And so started just cooking and doing pop-ups with other chefs and collaborating and doing pop-ups all over the world. And in that process, really just saw how much of a gap there was, outside of China for high quality Chinese flavors. I realized that all of the ingredients that I was cooking with, which were so integral to the flavors, they were not available outside of China. And that was for many reasons. There was like no awareness of these ingredients. So of course there was like no appreciation. And, but on top of that, there was also added prejudice against, Chinese ingredients, and people thought that it was all low quality, that it's not worth paying for. So of course it's like a chicken and egg thing. Then no one's going to ever export anything of quality if they're told that people are not willing to pay for it. Right. So all of those things kind of made me realize that there was a big gap that, I think there's an opportunity to fill. So I knew that these flavors were universal because I was cooking for people all over the world, and everyone, you could just see their eyes light up when their palates were awakened by these new flavors. And so there's a lot of love for these flavors. They'd never heard of them. They'd never heard of Sichuan cuisine, had no idea how to access it. So that was when, I started thinking about how Sichuan food, because it is driven by these flavor profiles, which often take the form of sauces. And I was making these sauces already for my dinners, like as components of my dinners. And I was like, okay, I could just bottle this and that's kind of how I started selling chili crisp in Shanghai to like local, stores and to friends and family.
You've seen it in America, especially in the last few years with first or second generation children of immigrants who've come in and they've looked back into their own heritage and opened restaurants and put their own either modern twist on it or just, given an evolution to the cuisine. When you were doing that in China, one, is that same trend happening over there? And two, were people open to a new interpretation of a classic condiment?
Yeah, I think, there was definitely a curiosity, right? And that was because, like I mentioned, on the ground in China, there is so much of that going on. Like there's constant evolution, young chefs were, there was like a new generation of fly restaurant that was, cropping up where instead of like old school mom and pop run restaurant, it was run by, a new generation of of like young people who had a love for self-expression through cooking. I think China, it's similarly to here. Like, I think, as China's like middle class really grew and just as people were living a bit more comfortably, like I think my generation of people were finding themselves as the first generation in in their families who have like the choice to do whatever they wanted, right? And it wasn't so much like my parents' generation. They were still like very much, expected to go into specific government issued jobs and things like that. And then this is the first generation where there is so much more. They have a baseline of comfort and stability, and so there's an appetite for more risk taking and creative pursuits. And so I saw that within the food world as well. Like there were just like really interesting, restaurants that were very experimental and just doing cool things. And yeah, there was like definitely a value placed on high quality ingredients, provenance of, ingredients, kind of, I think like, the over industrialization of food has also been something that's happened in China, just like it has in the West, right? And so there was like this trend of kind of going back to the roots as well, but like making it modern. And so kind of a high quality chili sauce that, costs 5 times as much as like, what you're used to. It was something that definitely had a huge market in China. I was selling a lot of chili sauce in Shanghai.
I mean, that's pretty amazing to see that opportunity and to run with it. How did you sort of gear up for that? I think it's one thing to make and bottle and sell to local stores. It's quite another thing to go to a full CPG brand, possible co-packers, distribution, things like that. Can you take us through a little bit of that process and how much did you know and how much did you have to figure out?
So I knew nothing. I knew absolutely nothing. I was making it all in my kitchen in Shanghai and just hand bottling. And I would get, my, just like, my helpers to kind of help me just bottle and stuff. And that was the extent of it. But when I thought about, expanding to the US, and that was in 2018 when I went to Expo West and saw like just how few, pretty much there's nothing on the market that represented high quality Chinese flavors. I was That's when I started to seriously look into scaling production, because I knew obviously there's like there's rules around, like you have to work with certain manufacturers that are like FDA certified and all of this stuff. So I knew that was as much as I knew. And so I just started looking into factories and had no idea where to begin. So I went to grocery stores and just picked up bottles of sauce that I saw and looked up the factories that were kind of listed on the labels and just called one by one and just got people recommending others, and just eventually found my way to, the co-packers that we're working with now. And there was a lot of rejection, a lot of like no's. People had no interest in working with a nobody, they were pretty content with their business that they got from, just the domestic Chinese market. There's no interest in expanding internationally, especially when they knew that, Westerners, didn't really want to pay for Chinese food. So like, there's just no incentive for them. Right. So it took a lot of time and convincing, and, until I found, a co-packer that was even willing to work with us. And then from there, it was more challenges of just trying to get them to do things my way, like using, my kind of more complicated techniques and my specific sourcing. And none of them wanted to do that, because they didn't have to. They were very content with where they were.
Because they knew that at some level the consumer wouldn't know how good it could be if they cut corners.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think, in that process, it was very clear why things were pretty watered down, that were mass, available. But I think, it was more just like they had a way of doing things, and it's like they just don't want to deviate from that. Just it's not. Yeah, I mean, if it's working for them, why change it, kind of thing. Especially because they didn't know what my quantities were going to be, and it's not like I was a known company. So it was like, definitely took a lot of convincing to get someone to take a chance.
So, it's easy to be distorted about these types of condiments, especially this one, if you live in, let's say, Los Angeles or New York or San Francisco, some places that have a pretty big tie to Chinese population or Chinese food in general. When did you start to notice a national tipping point in America when people recognized, what this product was, and that people were interested in it, and that people were willing to pay for it?
Yeah. So, I think, initially I launched a Kickstarter, and just to kind of see the appetite, and people really were ready for something like this, and I think, that was what I suspected, but the Kickstarter really verified that for me. So it was enough for me to like move to LA, like basically, stop doing the supper club, move to LA, and like set up the brand as a consumer packaged good company, like, and just start working on that. I think, we had that initial base of a few thousand backers, which we're very lucky to have had, like, just people who, really, foodies that wanted to, and who were quite well versed in Chinese cuisine, and, liked the type of like umami and flavor profile. So we started with that base, the customer base, and it kind of steadily grew from there, because those people tend to be the trendsetters in their communities, and they, spread the word about us. We were lucky to have gotten a lot of great press coverage very early on, and I think quite quickly we became the kind of product that a lot of food people were talking about. And I think after COVID, in 2020 was when we actually really grew into like the mainstream consciousness for the first time. So people started, cooking more at home, like we talked about earlier. And we also had a pretty major press coverage during COVID, including one New York Times article that really, I think, just
I
blew
remember
us
it.
up. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sam Sifton, was it?
Yeah.
Shout out the great lady. Shout out Sam.
So Sam Sifton was so incredible to us, and he was curious about how a Chinese food brand was doing during the height of COVID, with everything that was going on, not just in terms of supply chain and stuff, but also anti-Chinese sentiment, and like it's a food product from China. So he was curious and just, interviewed me, and I had no idea what it was going to be for, but it ended up being an article in the Sunday Times that said that was titled "Your Quarantine Cooking Needs Chili Crisp," and it was an article just about Fly by Jing. So it was really incredible, and overnight we sold out of 6 months of inventory. We ended up that year 10xing the business, and I was able to hire my first employees, and so kind of set us up on a different trajectory.
It'd be so easy just to focus on the chili crisp and do one product and just say this is what we're about, but you've expanded to so many products and special collabs, even merch, feels like streetwear drops, things like that, and building out content on your Instagram page. Why was that an important part of the business and not just this one product?
Yeah, so I think from the beginning it was never about the product. I think it was always about what the kind of change that I wanted to see in the food world. I didn't see any representation of real, Asian voices and cultures in the food world. And so I wanted to change that. And we were really like one of the earliest Asian food brands, and that's only 4 years ago. And now we see this proliferation. I mean, it's still like the very kind of beginning stages, but we're starting to see so many exciting, businesses run by founders who are, identity driven and mission driven. And we're very proud to be a big driving force in creating more space for those diverse voices. So I think like from the beginning, it's been a very personal, quest of mine to be a, culturally relevant, like driving force. And so that's kind of how we approach the brand. And the brand is also really just about like inviting people into the fold. We're not a brand that's just like, we sell Sichuan food and you must cook Sichuan food if you eat this food. It is, there's one way to be, there's no. And so since the very beginning, we've talked about our products, being, good on everything. Like try it on ice cream, try it on, your eggs in the morning, your sweet green salad. You don't even need to know how to cook. And so with that,
just have it in the backpack. Put it on everything.
Yeah, exactly. Put it on anything. Like, and with those prompts, I think like we've given permission to our customers to really experiment and make it their own. And so it's really, people tell us they put it into their baked goods. People, eat their fruit with it. And they, it's like really incredible to see people just like take it and make it their own. And that's, that's what we're all about.
I love that permission to say this is just another condiment in some ways. Not saying it doesn't have a story and has its place in culture, but it's, you see ketchup and mayonnaise and mustard.
Yeah.
There are no rules where people use it. Sometimes I look at that and I go, not where I would put it. But this idea that you can take this, maybe you even heard about this condiment or this type of cuisine from years ago, and now you're like, oh, it's just a staple. It's a pantry staple in the best way possible.
Yeah, exactly. And just to get back to your original question about it's a single product business versus all the other things that we do, I think it's really just like we do what, I think the brand is a reflection of me, and certainly in a lot of ways, but I think there's a philosophy and there's a point of view that we represent, and we believe that can show up in so many different ways, whether it's a piece of merch, whether it's like a collaboration with another like-minded brand, whether it's just a product that's like not even food or just anything. Yeah. So I think, earlier this year, we had a partnership with Disney and Pixar for their film Turning Red. And that was like a story that we're really excited to be aligned with, because it's literally, when I first heard about the storyline, I felt like it was a story of my life, It was like this Toronto Chinese girl that turned into a giant red panda, and pandas are from Sichuan. And it's just like, more stories like that hadn't existed before, that, really aligns with what we're about. So we partnered with them on that. And, we're partnering with Shake Shack as well. We just did a big launch with them in the UK, which is hopefully, or it is soon coming to the US as well. And so it's really like there's no rules. I think definitely Chili Crisp is our hero product, is our bestseller. But what excites us is to be able to do like kind of genre bending, projects. So
I love that. Well, Jing, I can't thank you enough for making the time and for making a great condiment and product. If people want to see what you're up to, hear about the new products you're working on, or just get involved with the larger community, where can they go?
So people can go to flybyjing.com and follow us on all the platforms at flybyjing. My personal is at Jing Theory. And we're always, coming out with new products. We actually just launched a new product today, which is like a chili crisp vinaigrette.
I saw for salads. Yes, please. Yes, please.
It's for all kinds of things, salads, noodles, dip your dumplings in it. It's just this really incredible mixture of our chili crisp, soy sauce, our 10-year aged black vinegar, and some sweetness as well. So,
coming to a Tuesday lunch near me very soon.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much. We have a song from the archives and then a live performance here on Snacky Tunes on Heritage Radio Network.
This week on Meat and Three from HRN, we're dissecting the mojito, one ingredient at a time.
Because it's fizzy water and it's different to other waters we've seen, it must cure something.
I actually hadn't heard that Sir Francis Drake story before, but it was so typical it had me rolling my eyes over here.
There was no other substance around where you could get so much booze per buck.
Tune in to Meat and Three wherever you get your podcasts.
So, most bands, get one shot and get to some, fame and then kind of just go away. You guys are kind of you're on your second leg, in my opinion, as another band and anything. So, how are you approaching it differently this time?
If it has to be important to us for our time these days.
Well, so as opposed to before, where
we're just getting dragged along behind of the indie school bus there, dragging us through hell and high water, breaking our bank accounts, and for pretty much free beer. So those bullshit days are over, and we want to live our life with intention and purpose and feel good about what we're doing.
I mean, people love you guys. I know that other people like bands, but I know that you have a very, very loyal group of fans and supporters in the, indie school bus world, even though things go specifically KXP, who's been huge champions of you guys.
And many others.
And many others. So
they've helped so many people.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing, do you approach the shows differently, tours differently, or is that kind of...
Yeah, we're doing everything. It's like we decided to do 3 people instead of 5, so that makes being able to get to things like this in a car so much faster. We kind of got to sit, we just got to chill out for a year and look at it completely different. And I think that sometimes when bands get rolling, there's no time to stop, right? You're either trying to hold down a job or you're touring, and there's no time to stop and reassess stuff. You're just going. So Eric and I quit drinking for 6 months, stopped hanging out. Our phone certainly didn't ring off the hook when Pele ended. I thought people would ask if we'd be trying to get see if we could play with them or guest on their records, or nothing. Thanks, New York.
Thanks, New York. I mean, that's kind of I feel like that's anything in the creative world. If you're in it, you're in it. But once you're out, people are just kind of
they just keep
blinders
going.
on. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to say it.
Well, also it changes. I mean, it's those people are early 20s who are your champions, and they move on and next thing, and then it's these new round of people.
Yeah.
I was at Treasure Island this weekend, and DFA 79 was on the headliners on the side stage, and there was nobody there under their late 20s. Because they just stopped, and then they haven't put out anything new. They even put out a new thing when they got back together.
Yeah.
And it was just I was like, and even the person I was with, who was 2 or 3 years younger than me, was like, yeah, I heard of them, but I wasn't in it. And so it's sort of if you're not in it, which I think you guys, and we were talking about before we went on there, it was a very specific time in our lives. Yeah, well, if you weren't in that time or that scene, it was just
yeah. Well,
I think that's what goes back to when we started. The difference between then and now is knowing all of that, knowing that everyone disappears when you're not the name on the blog anymore or whatever, and knowing that your entire existence in many ways is purely digital and it will just be wiped out the minute you're done. Why on earth would you want to participate in that kind of world? Because it's such a trite, superficial world. So we had to ask ourselves why we would want to do that, and getting to that core place where you realize that most people when they play music is because they love it, and when they're kids they connect to it on some level, and it makes them kind of feel life a little differently, and then the industry kind of has this game with you, and it makes you hate it, and a lot of people become bitter, become self-absorbed or whatever, or just get totally lost. And why on earth would you want to go back into that? And reconnecting with why we play music and why we're here was the foundation of what we're doing right now. So that's really the biggest difference.
The sad part about it is that it's not the music's fault. The music's the pure thing, and everything else is kind of silly.
So what type of opportunities and shows are you pursuing now that you might have just been nah, we're not interested in that?
There's been offers to play ever since the band started, and we've just not really feeling going over that patch of land. We've already done that, and so we started touring in the UK and kind of worked our way back from the UK to here. So it's worked out really nicely.
Okay. So can we hear another song?
Sure.
Hey, old man, turned and scratched his chin. Said, son, I wouldn't know where to begin. But your daddy's gold is gone down south. Was all he would talk about. We never blamed it on the soil. The sun-burned earth or the prices of the oil. This border town is my home. I got rattlesnake guts in a desert full of bones. Now my sister, I've gone to find someone, so I won't come back no more, no more. Lord, I see red, the storming in my head. I got cathedrals in my eyes. I think my daddy's dead. Lord, I see red, I'm praying on my bed. I got a drum, oh mother, got a saint for a brother. Now the sun is shining on my hood. The statue on the dashboard of Maria looks beautiful, and I'm heading down south. Got tequila in my veins and the devil in my mouth. Tell my sister I've gone to find someone, so I won't come back no more, no more. Lord, I see red, it's storming in my head. I got cathedrals in my ears. I think my daddy's dead. Lord, I see red, I'm praying on my bed. I got a drunk, oh mother, got a saint, oh brother. But hey, it's alright. I got jukebox tears and stones for us. Hey, it's alright. I got jukebox tears under turquoise skies. Hey! So now I got hell on my trail. Took some demons to get even. Now my demons count rosaries. We never blamed it on the soil. The sun-scorched earth where the desert meets the sky. Tell my sister I've gone to find someone, so I won't come back no more, no more. Lord, I see red, it's storming in my head. I got cathedrals in my ears. I think my daddy's dead. Lord, I see red, I'm praying on my bed. I got a drum, oh mother, got a saint for a brother. Lord, I see red, it's storming in my head. I got cathedrals in my ears. I think my daddy's dead. Lord, I see red, I pray down on my bed. Got a drunk, oh mother, got a saint for a brother. Drunk for mother, got a saint for a brother. Drunk for mother, got a saint for a brother. Drunk for mother, saint for a brother.
All right. That sounded great.
Thank you.
As you enter back into the studio.
Well, we have Damn Dog showed up, and I wanted to get them some pizza.
And you got a cookbook. So, CMJ is upon us, as it happens every year.
You're not saying it right. It's CM Hey.
Wow.
Wow, I've never heard that before.
And you've been listening to Snacky Tunes. I am out.
No, that's
between you and Billy. I can't win today.
but that's really. I mean, let's be honest. Like, shows are sort of secondary at CMJ. It's not really.
What's primary?
Getting your name on a flyer.
Which is, pretty much,
honestly,
which is pretty much everything that We Are Augustines just said that they are not pursuing.
I know, but I'm just saying that, like, you guys are doing it right because you guys have selected, like, but, like, so many of the shows are just, like, it's a pain in the ass to load in. The majority of New York doesn't care. It's not like Austin when, like, the entire city is, like, ready for South by. Mm-hmm. Or it's like a festival when it's just, like, you're in a location. Like, that's... CMJ is, like, a very tough thing to play.
I think we realized that we are background music. After all these years, we kind of finally realized that no one really cares.
I don't know. I mean, I might be biased, but I think, full disclosure, because I work for the Ace Hotel, we're partnering with KXP. You guys are playing there on Wednesday.
Yep.
I think those opportunities are awesome, but then again, it's because, 50, 100 people might show up because, limited space or because you guys are playing at 11 in the morning.
Sure.
But then it lives on in the ether and is recorded and things like that. But playing the 8 p.m. slot on Thursday at pianos, maybe not as...
To come full circle, like this is the topic, right? Like it's really nice kind of having done it and looking at things going, I want things to have meaning. Like I want them to mean something.
But I mean, I would say this... we had J.D. Sampson, who used to be in Le Tigre, or still is in Le Tigre, and was in Men, and talking about second comings or things like that. It's like you're starting over in the sense that like people might not know the name, but you already have the relationships, which actually, and the ones that are good.
Yes, sir.
And as opposed to the ones that are bad, which we talked about before.
Yes, we did.
And that is well ahead of the curve than like a starting point being like, hi, please try and listen to us. Which is like great because you guys get the opportunity to play KXP without having to put the 5 years of just having them to like hear your songs first.
No, but you put in the 5 years. I mean, it's all about moving forward, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we started with when Pele broke up, we realized we were surrounded by vultures, and it was up to us.
Just to put it loosely, in the nicest terms possible.
But it was up to us to change that perspective, and then at the same time that we were surrounded by vultures, the minute we changed our perspective, we realized we were surrounded by people who supported us and loved us and would do anything they could to help us. And we just simply went towards them.
I mean, Billy,
and all of a sudden we have like a whole different perspective on music.
Exactly, and you got in 2 serious accidents, and there's still what I thought was great about that is like you got in an accident, you guys had to pause. You came back, and there were people there, and you got into another accident, and there were people there, and that to me was like one of the most heartwarming things.
Yeah,
that people were just like, we'll just wait.
I know. I thought it was really noteworthy that living in a city this big, it's really. I try to explain it to people when we're not here, like actually what it's like to actually live in New York. And there's like basically like, areas that have their own scene, their own tempo, their own vibe. But the fact that like a music community at large actually helped me. I mean, that wasn't. I think that surgery was like $15,000.
Which one of the 2 surgeries? The hand surgery?
The hand one, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, that was actually... I felt like it would have been a really awesome write-up, but, like, no one really gave a shit. I thought it was fantastic that there is a music community, even though it doesn't always feel like one. Right. And they actually really stepped up. So it's actually really something to be proud of.
You know how it is with it's so much about the bad story, not the good story.
Yeah.
The accident was important, not the aftermath.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think wasn't that the case though?
Yeah, well, it also to go back to Augustine's for a second, like it really took a village to raise the band in a way because we started a listener supported model to get our band off the ground. We didn't do Bandcamp. We totally did our own thing and reached out and we designed our own website,
which is an awesome website, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really good.
But we just had to basically, I don't know if anyone's even listening, but in the music world or for the food folks are listening, but I guess what I would say to people who are doing it or starting it, just don't underestimate the power of like your friends. And I know you've been hearing that for years, but like even people that headline the Bowery or do radio or whatever, like even those guys like need to ask for help from their friends and give back also. If you get a chance to like help other bands out, do it. And I don't know what you got in mind that like New York's going to be some like kind of fancy cakewalk where everyone gets to hoe down and get drinks and chase girls and stuff. Like get rid of that model. It's lame. Like,
it doesn't work.
It's lame.
I think that's a good note to take us out. Before we play a song, because I know that every say that. Let's give people the what's the website, how to follow, how to get in contact, how to book you for gigs.
Well, there's
where to buy the record, which has been out since this summer.
I keep hearing about this. There's like this website, something called about face.
The Facebook.
That one. Yeah.
Wait, what book?
The People book.
It's really. It's supposedly it's really popular.
Hey, I heard. Keep an eye on it, and if you got money, just wait.
There might be something in there.
Might be something.
Yeah. I hear they're making a movie about it too.
Yeah, documentary. There we go. High five.
I'll try this again.
Hold on. Website.
We are Augustines.com.
Like it's spelled.
Can't miss it.
Awesome. And we're gonna
have you play a song. They're going to play a song for Damn Dogs, and they're going to be in here 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Cool.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
The name of the song before you guys.
And thank you to Sean Fletcher.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah,
Who's got literally like the best shirt on of all time. It's
plaid pearl buttons with bees.
Something else we could play. This is a new song. Lift your tired heart now, darling. Lift it up into the air. And I will notice you in this crowded room and whisper in your ears. Lift your tired head down, darling. Lift it up into the air. And I will float to you in this crowded room. Let's get us out of here. I really don't care. Ain't got no paper in my pockets now, but I will, I swear. Honey, know you're tired of losing. It's a million to one, I know, Lord. Put your lily hand in mine. This is a ballad of a passion mind. Lift your heart. Tired eyes now, darling. Hold back your pretty head. As long as my heart keeps pumping blood, ain't gonna disappear. I'm running out of love now, darling. I really don't care. Ain't got no paper in my pockets now, but I will, I swear. I know you're tired of losing. To me, you're the one I know, Lord. Put your lily hand in mine. This is a ballad of a passion mind. Honey, I ain't a lucky man, but I do what I can. I could buy you a diamond ring, 'cause now these songs that ain't gonna stay. I could buy you a ballroom gown and twirl you around somewhere downtown. This is a ballad of a passion mind. Lift your heart. Lift your heart. Lift your heart. As long as my heart keeps pumping blood, 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 pumping blood. Blood, 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 blood.
We talk about food, we talk about music.
Snacky Tunes is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.